What's going on, you guys? I am coming to you from Johnstown, Colorado. I just wanted to tap in real quick. I know there's a debate about if it's a good time to get into trucking or not necessarily even box trucking, but just trucking in general. Is it a good time to get your CDL, to enter into trucking? And I would say, let me fix it. I'm in my bunk right now, as you see, so I'm still out here. I'm preparing to pick up a load tomorrow. But what I will say is, if you are interested in getting your CDL and coming out on the road, especially OTR, I think it is a good thing to do. Regardless, you will always have your license regardless. So even if you get out here and you decide it's not for you, you will always have your license and you can always utilize it to do something else, later or whatever it is, or when times get rough. So I do think, getting into trucking, or at least getting your CDL, is always a good thing to do. It's another skill that you have that you can utilize, anytime, anywhere. And I don't care what side of the country you go to, whether it be east, west, north, south, or whatever, you can always find employment, or you can always run a truck. I don't really, because I work with a company that dispatches freight, I don't have to worry about necessarily okay, my APU was getting ready to start, so my truck was shaking a little bit. And when you in truck stops and there was nobody that was already parked on the side of me, I was like, I hope nobody hit my truck. I hope nobody hit my truck. But yeah, back to what I was saying. You can always find, I work with a company who automatically dispatches, so I don't have to ever worry about sitting for long periods of time. Typically when I'm done with one load, within a few hours or so, I'm getting dispatched with another one. I did that, of course, we've already had that conversation on why I came and went through a company first, and how I was going to utilize their resources and things of that nature. So if you're not familiar with that, I will tag the other video up here. You can go back and watch that so you can see why I'm here or whatever, if it interests you. But I will say that yes, definitely trucking is lucrative. Now I will say, before you get out here and you give that commitment, make sure that is something that you want to do. Like, trucking is definitely a different lifestyle. If you're not used to being out on the road or being away from home for long periods of time, away from your family, your loved ones, missing out on things, birthdays, holidays and certain things of that nature, quite naturally you can always schedule time to be home. But there's going to be times where you're not going to be able to miss or make a event or a birthday or whatever, a holiday, because you're going to want to be out there to get your money or whatever. So if that's something that you don't think that you can deal with, I wouldn't suggest going through a company necessarily, because they gonna want you to be out on the road pretty much 24/7. Now they will, you can schedule your home time or whatever it is, but 9 times out of 10 they're gonna want you on the road. Like, for instance, the company that I went through, I started out as a company driver, and the only home time that they would allow for you to have is after you done ran for, I think, at minimum 4 weeks, and then they would give you 4 days off. But to me, that's ridiculous. It's like, I done been out for a whole month and you trying to tell me you gonna give me 4 days off, and I done ran from sun up to sundown 70 hours a week plus. You know what I'm saying? And you want to give me 4 days off, like I'm supposed to be able to take care of all my business in 4 days? Yeah, no, that's not gonna work for me. So I did end up transitioning from company to lease, And it was really more so just for, flexibility. I'm not really fond of the lease. I'm still not fond of the lease. I have, my reservations about that whole thing, but I work a lot less and get paid more versus a company driver. A company driver would have to work way more than I do. You would have to train and all kind of other stuff to make the money that I make as a solo lease operator. So I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, I gotta pay them to use a truck, but my money at the end of the week is a lot more. So as a company driver, I would have to run at least at minimum 2,500 miles to see $1,000. I don't have to run. As a lease op, I may not even have to go 300 miles. It depends on the loads that I'm taking, so I may not have to go 300 miles and still get $1,000. It just depends on the nature of the load or whatever it is. And I can pretty much, if I'm gonna run a whole week as hard as I would run as a company driver, I'm gonna at least come home with about $3,000 to $4,000 at the end of the week, versus seeing maybe 1,500, maybe two. I can't think of a time when I was a company driver that I made over $1,200. To be honest with you, I don't remember how much, because of course I was never necessarily in it for the money. I was really more so in it for the experience. But if I got to be out here and I'm risking my life being away from my family, god dang it, you gonna pay me at this point, and then the way that they, to me, in my eyes, the way I felt I was treated as a company driver just was not, what I'm saying, conducive to what I'm about to do. It's like, look, I'm not a company person. I'm really here for the experience. But what I'm not about to do is let nobody talk to me crazy. So either you can have this and I can go back to doing what I do, because at this point I got my CDL and I can go reactivate my authority and hit on. Like, I'll just learn from learn my mistakes on my own, and I'll just have to pay for them as I go. But I was sitting down talking to another driver when I was in the terminal, and she kind of rolled out everything and gave me the information and was like, girl, no, you need to go ahead and do it. And she showed me all the paperwork, everything, pretty much all the black and white to it. And she was like, you don't have to deal with none of that. Like, that's not the type of time they own underneath the lease side. Now, I will say there is still some things that I can do without. But at the end of the day, I can't believe I'm saying I have literally 10 weeks left on the year. So the year actually kind of went by fast if you really want to think about it. I have 10 weeks left with my year contract, and then I do want to start pursuing some other things, because it really took away from me being able to do other things that I'm used to doing. So I will probably be stepping away from the over-the-road driving more so, and only focus on driving locally or within the Southeast region. So I don't even know if I'm gonna go as far as Florida, and if I do, it'll really be close to the border of Florida. I might do Alabama, South Carolina, and maybe Tennessee. Yeah. And I may or may not purchase a truck. I've been playing with the idea of getting a used affordable truck, just to run around Georgia, because I noticed when I was at home, which was kind of eye-opening, I went home just for a spare of the moment trip. It was my mom's birthday, but that's not the reason why I went home. I went home for other things, but it just so happened to be her birthday. And the week I was there, I'm running around Georgia, all around pretty much all of Georgia, because I was in Savannah, I was in Austell, Georgia, I was in Cartersville, another place that starts with an A, I think that's what it starts with. I don't know. Adairsville. I was in some other place in the middle of Georgia. I was all over Georgia. For that week, I made a few good trips to different places in Georgia. I was all over, and that week Yeah, I was all over Georgia because I was in Columbus. I had went close down by not, oh my God, Tifton, Georgia. I was in Savannah, and then I was in another place near Savannah. I don't remember the name of that. I took a load from there all the way up to Adairsville, I think, because I went there to Adairsville twice. Then I picked up a Budweiser load in Cartersville and took that down to some Blackburn or something like that, Georgia. When I tell you I ran Georgia down, and I actually made more money that week, and I was able to go home throughout the week. I was able to actually sleep in my own bed. So so I said that to say, I would prefer to be home. Yeah, I might have to do a little bit more trips or whatever it is, but I might sleep in my truck one day out the week versus sleeping in my truck every day out the week, and I could spend more time going home, or I could just deadhead home and be home within 3 to 4 hours, and then start it again. So I've been playing with the idea of getting another truck or whatever it is, and just doing home, just running in Georgia, because I see the opportunities are there. Like, they're there. They have plenty of freight going in and out, within Georgia. And if I have to leave Georgia, I don't want to go no further than Alabama, South Carolina, Tennessee. That's it. And then I can find something else to bring me back home, or it's not so far where I don't feel uncomfortable deadheading home, because I see with this company, hell, I done deadheaded 500 miles to get to where I'm at, and at least on me driving around Georgia, I'm driving around Georgia, tearing up Georgia on one tank of fuel. That's what, $600-700, maybe $8, just depending on how much fuel I'm getting and what the cost of fuel is at that time. So that makes more sense for me to do it that way than it is for me to be all over the place or whatever. So if I don't feel like running that week, I don't have to, or if I don't feel like running for 2 weeks, I don't have to, because I can, do what I need to do, get enough to pay the bills for the week or whatever it is, and then I'm done on down the road. Now, and I don't think I had 2 drop-in hooks. But it would have been okay because I had picked up at Budweiser. I did a drop-in hook. But even if I had to stay there and get the load, that load wasn't supposed to be delivered until a day and a half away. So I would have still been able to get it there on time, even if I had to go early in the morning and, get the load dropped off. And it was a smaller beer distributor or whatever. So it was just me there. He got me unloaded. I was done 30 minutes and was out down the road. So yeah, like I was saying, I do think it is a good thing to still go ahead and get into trucking, learn it. I can't tell you what avenues to take. Only you would know that. I felt me doing this was the best because at the end of the day, I don't have any liabilities. I wouldn't necessarily want to start out in the trucking with it being the risk that you take in trucking. I personally wouldn't have want to have started and had it on my own authority, just because there's so much risk involved. So I am glad that I took the time out to learn it with a company that sponsored the CDL. They gave you the on the road training in the truck, gave you a truck to drive while you're still learning. Because I'ma just be honest, after I got out of training, I really don't think still I was ready to really start running the road by myself. Comfortable with driving because clearly I didn't drove the box truck for a while, up and down everywhere. I was pretty much everywhere in that box truck. So driving the commercial vehicle wasn't a thing. Now it's a little different now because it's the winter time, and it's just dangerous being out in the winter in a car, let alone a 80,000 pound fully loaded truck. But you do have the ability, once you get out there and do your own thing, to not have to deal with the winter times. Somebody just parked next to my truck. Yeah, somebody just parked next to me. Anywho, I wouldn't want to put that kind of risk on a new company, that because if you tear up somebody's stuff or you cause a major accident out on the road, that could be millions of dollars. And you know, they can actually come after you, your personal assets, business, and all of that. And so I'm glad that I did it the way I did it, just because of the risk. But I mean, everybody's situation is different. If you feel comfortable and you don't mind taking the risk or whatever, you jump out there and do you. But I would highly advise that you didn't. Get to learn the business, get to learn the customers, get to learn the process. To me, it's really no different than the box truck, in a sense, when it comes to dealing with shippers and that kind of thing of that nature. It's really not much different, except for, I'm trying to think, because I don't ever remember sitting at no shipper and receiver for hours and hours and hours waiting to get loaded. I had one situation when I was in Tifton, picking up a load going to a new not a Safeway, a new Publix they were building in Georgia, and that was a local load, and I just took that load to get out of Florida, because you know Tifton's right at the tip of Florida, so of Georgia, but you know on the border of Georgia and Florida. So I took that load just so I can, you know, pay for the fuel to get me home for the most part. And I was just going up the road, so I wasn't going far. So I really probably pocketed like $100 to take myself home. Because I had already made the money going down to Florida. So me coming home, it was like $300 for me to take. I don't even think it was 100 miles. It might have been 100 miles, maybe. I don't even know. I don't remember. But it wasn't much. It was a light load. It wasn't a whole lot. So I just ran that up to by the Perimeter Mall. I think the store wasn't even open yet. They were still in the building process. But I took it up there, and I think that's the only load I can ever remember having to wait. Everybody else was pretty much, as soon as you got there, they was unloading you. I think. It's been a minute, but I think that's the only time I ever remember waiting a long period of time. And I think they were just waiting on a part or a piece of the product or whatever the heck they had on the back of that truck to get there. But they didn't communicate that with me. They could have, but they didn't. But other than that, I was in and out. As soon as I pulled up, checked in, did what I needed to do, I bumped the dock and they got me loaded and I got on. But only in trucking. In the actual tractor trailer trucking, I had to sit there and wait for, one was a day and a half. Like I got there at 9 o'clock. I got there at 9 o'clock at night. Well, actually it was earlier because I think the appointment was at 9. So I got there about maybe 7:30, 8 o'clock. And I didn't leave until the next day at, I want to say 5 o'clock. I want to say it may have been earlier. I don't remember. But I remember it being dark-ish. And you know it started getting dark around at 4:30, 5 o'clock. And this was not too long ago. So that was the longest I had been at a facility. But I done been there at least 10 hours, some 10 hours, some not as long. But that's one of the things that you have to deal with. And of course that can kind of hold you up. But you do get, you know, detention pay, of course. So they'll pay you, the company will pay you for having to sit there and wait because the shipper then is not on their shit. So I done had a lot of them. Some weeks those came through too. And I look at my check like, oh, okay, yeah. Especially on them days that I ain't really did a lot of running. And then them detention paychecks click in. That's like $200-$300 per detention, you know, pay. So you be like, okay, yes. So that's always a good thing. But yeah, definitely I would definitely recommend, if you're interested in still getting into trucking, and if you want to know if trucking is still a good industry to get into, I would highly recommend you try it out. Don't take nobody's word for it. Not nobody's word, because everybody's situation is going to always be different. A lot of the older people in trucking, are used to a certain, level of trucking, the fuel prices, this, that, and the third. And I would say with some of the older truckers, they run their truck where it doesn't get the best fuel mileage. And of course, naturally, if that's something that's a part of your business, you want to manage that as well. I'm out here with them every day, and they going 60, 70, well, 60 is not too bad, but 70, 75, 80 miles or whatever it is, and they burning the hell out they tank. Slow that shit down, coast your stuff. And if you can't get your load there on time, you need to do better planning. But what do I know? I'm just new to the game. But I will say that I run my truck at 58, 60, 62, 65. And when I run it at 65, I burn way more fuel than if I was to run it at 62 or 60. And I purposely did it just to see how my fuel levels run based off of how I coasted. So it wasn't something that I just was told. I've actually experienced it multiple times. Because there's some runs that I'm like, look, I'm gonna just have to burn that fuel and waste that money because I got to get it there. And then other times I make sure I plan my trips enough to where I have plenty of time to get to where I gotta go, where I got time to actually sleep an extra hour or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 if I want to, because I have that much time because of how I run my clock in my truck. But that's another thing too. You would have to learn how to really manage your trucking business, because it's not just driving and getting your loads there on time. Picking up and dropping off loads is really, at this point, your clock is going to be really serious. Making sure you're doing your pre-trips and things of that nature, because if you get to them DOT checkpoints and they pull your ass in for an inspection and your stuff not right, you're going to have 2 things: a ticket and out of service. So you still ain't gonna be making no money. So you got to really be on that. And then 2, you want to make sure that you're maximizing your clock so you can really be able to get the most money that you can, or the most time, or whatever it is, depending on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to maximize it and get as many loads as you can in for the week, that's cool. But if you don't mind, if you got a set number that you want to make every week, and as long as you can get that in, and the rest is cool, you could do that as well. But just making sure you're managing your clock appropriately, where you're not going over, or you're not going over all the time. Sometimes, it is gonna be what it is. You never know, because you can't plan for everything. You can plan, but there's certain things that's just gonna be totally out of your control, like traffic, for instance. Especially if they have like an accident, they shut the whole damn interstate down, and you gotta wait for 2 hours, 3 hours for them to clear it up, and you don't always have alternatives because you're not in a regular size, car or truck. You're in a 53-foot truck and trailer. So there are road restrictions. You can't just pull off to the next exit, because the next exit may not allow for trucks. So you kind of gotta, wait it out or whatever it is. So in situations like that, those are situations that's out of your control. Weather conditions, you can kind of control that a little bit sometimes, or whatever it is, because if you're planning, you can see what the weather's going to be like prior to you getting there, so you can know, okay, well, like today I'm in Colorado, I know it's going to be snowing. If it's not snowing now, it said it was supposed to be snowing by 8 o'clock or whatever it is. But my load that I'm picking up tomorrow, I have until from tomorrow all the way to the 19th to pick it up. So if it does start snowing and I don't feel comfortable getting out on that road with that snow and ice and all of that, I can wait until, and gauge it to see how it's going to be, and then pick it up then, and then send it back down south. Because I did look to see how the weather was going to be going back down to Tennessee. So, all those things take that you will have to learn in the trucking. Not that you wouldn't have to do it in the box truck industry, but it definitely plays a major factor when you're in this truck, because there's roads that box trucks can go on that we can't, because of the size and the weight. So yeah, that's my theory on that. Definitely, if you're interested, I would say go for it. Go ahead and get that license, because it's something that they can never take from you. You will always have that license until the day you die, really, until you can't drive no more. Until you are required to have somebody escort your old butt around. But other than that, as long as you are able to drive in a clear mind and you can pass the drug tests and physicals and things of that nature, you will always have that ability to make money. So yes, I do think getting into the trucking industry is going to always be a good thing. It's always good to learn. You can always, regardless to what regulations or whatever they put on you, because the thing about it is, whatever time you come in, that's all you're gonna know. You're not gonna know what they used to do back in the day. That only affects the people that was there back in the day, and it's changing. But if you in it now, it's gonna be normal to you anyway. So you guys, you have a great day. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Okay.